So like everyone 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, welcome to the worst presentation of the day, because I just filled in the request for the presentation in case we missed, there was a gap. And at the beginning of the day, it seemed that there were plenty of presentations, so I just didn't do anything. The idea was just to mention a few modules that we've been developing the last months, I would say, maybe some of them years. And I think it would be good just to comment if some of them are interesting for more people, if we should try to integrate them into Tryton core and things like that. So don't expect nothing spectacular, okay? The first thing I would like to start is the production area. Cedric already mentioned the root module and their root and operation modules. I think they are split into two modules. Or three. Okay. So we've got our own versions of these modules, which ended up in the ones into core. And I think some more features, I'm not sure if they are integrated. But apart from operations, there's one or two more things that I think that are very important and that should end up inside Tryton. One of them is production subcontract module, which allows you to do the production in another company instead of yours. This is something that more and more companies are production companies, but they do not do the work, or they do just part of the process. So what the current implementation allows you to use the current workflow of Tryton, which is, I don't know how many of you are used to the Tryton process of planning productions, but you let Tryton to create the productions for you based on procurement rules. But then you can send that production to another warehouse, and the system, the module, will automatically make the shipments to move the products back to your warehouse, okay? And it's designed so that the supplier has a warehouse as if it were a warehouse of yours. So the products will be picked from their warehouse. And you can bring products as using the procurement process of internal shipments that Tryton already provides to you. There's
so it's the production of the company that you externalize, and you are not doing production for someone else.
Exactly. In fact, we've got a customer who does productions for third parties too, and we've got some modules to manage the stocks of third parties, but that's another question. Another one is production phantom. I don't know if you know phantom bills of materials, which is basically that you want to split your whole production process or several production processes, and you create the bill of materials of each of them. But at some point, you want to create one single production for several bills of materials. Okay, let's suppose that you have to build a chair, and you have 3 models of chair, and the legs of the 3 chairs are built the same way, okay? But when you have an order to create a chair, you don't want to have a production for only the legs, Okay, you want to, when I have an order, I create the whole chair, but I want to split it into several bombs. This functionality is covered by Production Phantom, and at the time of production planning, it automatically picks up all the necessary bombs, list of materials. Okay. Yeah.
And how does the routing are managed with that? Because each bomb has its own routing, but if you put
we pick the top level one.
Routing, so you cannot define a routing on the phantom bomb, and it should be injected, or
if we, I can't remember. I'm not sure if we define, or if we pick the first one, or we recursively take each of them. I'm not really sure. Can't remember. We should check. The code is near. We can check afterwards. Though currently it's not recursive. It just picks. If one of the elements of the list of materials, it's a phantom, etc., it doesn't recurse. Well, we've got much more if anyone is interested in or has some needs in production. As you see here in Bitbucket, you can filter by production. We've got production split. I think it's not integrated, or it is? Yes.
You did not hear this morning?
I was sleeping probably. I didn't remember if we already integrated that one. There's also an efficiency percentage because Tryton core is already ready for easily extend this part. So you can define that at the bill of materials level, that in theory you require, I don't know, 1 liter of or 1 kilogram of painting to create this product, but you know that only 95% is going to be efficient. You have a 5% wastage. So you can define this 5% and it will prorate, it will calculate the necessary quantities. You know? No? Instead of defining the quantity, you define the theoretical quantity and a percentage next to it. And some modules related with, I think I've got it. I thought I had opened. There are also some modules for quality control, and some of them are integrated with production and with lots. Okay. We've been working also lately, Angel especially, in some improvements in the project area. And I think the most relevant part is the possibility of invoicing based on what we call here certifications. I don't know in other countries. Let's say that you work for the government and you have to build this room, for example, and they're going to pay you while you are working on this building, okay? But you need to agree, both parts, on what has already been done. Because you can say, okay, I put the lights, and the customer will come and say, you put the lights, but one is not working. So by now, I'm just going to pay you 3 of the 4 lights, for example. So you create a kind of certification document in which both parts agree, and that creates the invoice. Okay? And we also added products to be sold to those projects. So you can sell not only hours of work, but also products. Some security-related features. I could try to, no, I'm not going to try to demonstrate this one because we would need data. If somebody's interested, we can take a look. We created an audit trail and audit log modules, which register, one registers has the history of logins and logouts, and the other one, searches the database for all the things that a given user did in the system. Instead of logging every action, which would penalize the performance for each operation, we brought the effort of the system to the querying system. So we've got a wizard in which you say, okay, I want to know what this user did between this date and this date, and the system calculates what has been done. And if you've got Historize, you know, the feature that allows you to know which fields have been changed and what exactly the user did, it will tell you this user at that date changed that field, etc. Okay? It's not very performant because we on purpose decided not to put performance penalties at the time of creating records and modifying records. Because sometimes this is a security requirement of the company, but sometimes it's a requirement for an auditing process of the company. So it's a feature that they won't use in their everyday.
Did you think about using just the login module of Python and send it to something like Sentry or whatever to not penalize the operation, but to a queue that will store it?
We just query the database. It's quite simple query, simple but large query among all the tables, and query that information. There's a small password expiry module, which allows you also to say the minimum, the number of characters and things like that of a password, which is quite annoying, but sometimes people require it. I think somebody has talked about holidays at some point. We've got this holidays employee module, which I think it's rather good. Basically, it was copied from another open source project, and it allows you to manage holidays and at some point you can decide that you do not give holidays to an employee, but you will pay money instead of giving them holidays. I think you should take a look at it, because it's a feature that it's not something that people will purchase the ERP for you, but it's something that all companies need. Also, we've got, the name is not very fortunate. There's this contract module and several derivatives, which allows you to define recurring fees and so recurring invoices. And it's quite flexible. It allows you to define natural periods, natural months, or creating an invoice from day 10 of each month until day 9 of the next. And you can use months, weeks, years, and you can also define that the date of the invoice is outside of the period being invoiced. Okay, so you can define both things. And we've got some modules which link this contract with the asset. The asset module, we talked about them in the mailing list many months ago, I think. It's something we could talk about. So this is a basic asset module. And the idea with an asset is to be used, for example, for a car, a vehicle that the company owns. We use this module also for companies that provide maintenance to third parties. For example, we've got a customer that maintains elevators, and so we used this asset concept. Or we have got a customer who owns several flats, and they rent those flats. So we use this asset concept, and it's linked to the contract, so you can recurringly invoice those rents to your customers, ensuring that you are not renting the flat twice to several people, while at the same time maintaining this asset concept, which we are extending for maintenance operations also. So you can keep track of maintenance, and there are some modules to do this maintenance process with a full workflow of an employee, which is going to make the maintenance, and somebody who reviews the maintenance that's been done, etc., etc. And it's a concept that we are finding that many people or many companies use, and it's quite, it matches many requirements. We've got some modules which allow you to say who owns this asset. For example, in the case of an elevator, if you do maintenance works for third parties, okay, you can have all their assets in the system and say who owns this asset. Even if it changes next year, the owner could change while maintaining the same asset. And there are lots of modules, but I just wanted to mention this few.
Questions?
Do you still actively work with Babi?
Well, yes, we use it. We are not extending lots of features, but yes.
Is this something which could be in core? Tryton leader?
This question rings a bell to me.
It's difficult to say.
There are things to improve probably for getting to core. Does it make it easier for you to answer?
Probably.
I think
Tryton is designed mainly to be transactional system, and reporting doesn't fit easily, I think. But
basically, the problem is that if you want to be a competitive business intelligence solution, you need a lot of work to do. But our experience is that it solves many uses. So it's not the best solution, but it works for many needs. So that's how we sell it and how we explain it. It's a baby, but it works for most of them. It's basic, yeah. Recently, we were looking at cubes. I don't know if you know this solution. It also has its limitations, especially, for example, in the interface. One of the problems with Tryton is that the interface is, if you want to use the interface or the features that the interface of Tryton provides to you, it's a bit limited. But you go to cubes, and it's not very powerful either. So, and the compromise with performance is always very hard to achieve, because you've got one of the limitations in Tryton is the amount. If you need to show lots of records, it's going to be slow on 3 views. But cubes, for example, limits the number of rows to 5,000. Usually you can change the parameters. So I think it really depends on which scale do you want to work. So it's difficult.
I know in Zigzag there's some people somewhere, but there you have the module sil pos, the pos module. What is the latest status of pos in Tryton?
Is it for me? We use that module for a customer, I think, only one. But it's a special POS in that case because they sell without taxes included. I think Cedric integrated taxes included presently in 1 or 2 versions, 3.8 or?
Not on the sale. It's just the prices.
No, other prices.
But about the POS, I plan to sprint on it this week. I have a work in progress. There is a code review, but it's a separate object and the sale with its own workflow. I think I've sent an email 1 year ago about it. So.
More questions?
No? I think it's time for the foundation meeting.
No.
No?